Hi, this is Laura Kelley, chair of the Miami-Dade Democratic Party, with Richard Lamondin, who is the congressional candidate for District 27, or I should say one of the Democratic candidates for District 27 against Maria Elvira Salazar. I do have to say a slight disclaimer that we do not support or endorse any Democratic candidate prior to the primary, but we do want to give all of the Democratic candidates an opportunity to have their voices heard and to speak with them. And so, Richard, I'm so grateful that you're here with us today.
Thanks for having me.
No, thank you for being here. And tell me, what inspired you to run for Congress?
So I'm born and raised here in Miami. I started my company EcoFi here. We work on fighting climate change by actually upgrading old buildings to save energy, save water, save carbon, and also reduce utility costs for renters. I'm raising my 3-year-old son here, Leonardo. I am also married to an Italian immigrant, Martina, here, and she works on housing affordability and runs a nonprofit. So I have been in this community my entire life. I've also helped start numerous nonprofits, including one called Project Transforming Hope that helps young men improve their economic outcomes. So whether that's in the trades or whether that's via entrepreneurship or whatever path they want to take. And so I decided to run this time because I am deeply, deeply concerned with the future, for the future of my son.
Right.
He's 3. I think we've all seen the trajectory of this country nationally, but also locally. It's getting harder and harder to make it. One stat that really stood out to me reading the book Abundance not too long ago was that if you're born in the 1940s, you had a 92% chance of doing better than your parents. If you're born in the 1980s, the decade I was born, you had a 50% chance of doing better than your parents. The American dream is slipping away from a lot of people, and it's something that we need to continue to focus on. And so looking around and observing the aftermath of last November's election, went to my wife and said, I'm feeling the need to get involved more deeply. And I think I want to do it by running for Congress. And to her credit, she was the first one to not tell me I was out of my mind. We had just taken a pretty bad outcomes here, but I think the reason why, and as I spoke to more people, is that because I've built a successful business, because I've done it fighting climate change and making an impact, because I've been in this community, and because I connect with people across various backgrounds, I can present a very different picture of what a Democratic candidate in Miami looks like than what has come before. And it's something that we've been seeing day in and day out. And so I've been really encouraged by the reaction to this campaign, and also to the support I received both from fellow Democrats, but also from the wider community.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that there's this moment, I think, that we feel where, look, there were promises made in 2024 in the election cycle. And, what we're seeing, 8 months into this presidency is increased costs.
Yeah.
And we see the job numbers coming in, and they're very alarming. We see so many things, I think, that are really alarming. And there's this moment where people are saying things are not getting better, things are getting worse, and we need to provide that alternative.
Absolutely.
In that line, how, you're running against Maria Elvira Salazar.
Yeah.
In your mind, or in your opinion, what are some of the ways that she has betrayed her constituents or not supported our community in the way that I think some people hoped when they voted for her in 2024 again?
I think there's a lot of disappointed people, and I think that's what makes this time much different. She's had 5 years in this seat to deliver for this community, and she has not. And she's had 5 years to listen to her constituents, and she has not. And so I think her greatest betrayal is also one of her most recent. It's voting for the, I call it the big bad bill. They brand it the one big beautiful bill, whatever you call it, the budget bill, that is one of the worst pieces of legislation, at least in my lifetime.
Yes.
It's a bill that cuts healthcare from over 100,000 people in this district. It's a bill that cuts, I work in the sustainability industry, that cuts the tax credits that help expand solar, which, by the way, means that China is going to beat us in that race to be the green energy capital of the world. It's a bill that also cuts on core programs that this community relies on, whether that's affordable housing vouchers, whether that's Meals on Wheels, whether that's cooling assistance, where in the summer, so many families at a time when energy bills are rising cannot afford their AC. And so why did they do that? Instead, and the exchange of that is that tax credits go to the richest among us, and we drive $3 trillion additional dollars into our deficit that our children and grandchildren are going to have to deal with. And so this is something that no matter what part of the ideological spectrum someone is, it's a travesty. And I have no better way to describe it than that. That's only the most recent betrayal. Obviously, we've seen what's happened to this community being ripped apart. Inhumanity is not an American value, but we have seen her support the policies of this administration that have separated mothers from children, that have sent a 15-year-old into a concentration camp in the Everglades. We have seen her introduce legislation that is pure political theater. I'm referring to her Dignity Act. But when the time was most important to protect the Venezuelans that are here fleeing a brutal dictatorship, she was nowhere to be found, whether that's the Venezuelans, whether that's the Cuban people, whether that's the Nicaraguans, Haitians, you name it. And so this is, by definition, a failure of leadership. And it's something that I, as a leader in this community, look at, and I think to myself, we can do so much better. I started my company literally going door to door, changing toilets to save water, and built it into what it is today. I don't know if I could do that right now with all the pressures we're facing, how to make rent, how to make sure you have health care, how to pay your electric bill, how do you pay your water bill. I don't know if I could still have built my company the way I could in this time and place. And my company's only 13 years old. And so I know a lot of business owners, I know a lot of people feel the same way as I do. And I'm running to make sure that we actually have true leadership that represents the entire community here.
Yeah, and I think that, look, this betrayal, I think it really needs to be highlighted that because of the numbers in Congress, our local Congress people had real leverage.
Yes, they did.
To make differences in this bill. And they chose not to. I mean, the margin on this was
passed one vote.
Exactly. Yeah. So she could have been that one vote.
She could have held up all the legislation and been like, unless you deliver this for my community. I mean, you had in the Senate, you had, who was it, Lisa Murkowski being like, I need a carve out for Alaska if I'm going to vote for it in the Senate. She could have gone to the president and said, I am not voting for this if you don't make sure you protect the Venezuelans in my community, protect the members of my community. And if she really wanted to pass it and pass my Dignity Act. Well, guess what? She didn't do that. Her Dignity Act has less of a chance of passing than of Trump releasing the Epstein files. Right. And you know what I mean?
And what is she saying about that, by the way?
Yeah. And by the way, yes, on the Epstein files, she voted to keep them sealed. And so I cannot overstate how easy it is to just do the right thing. And she has time and again not done the right thing. She has gone with loyalty to a president that is obviously not operating in the best interests of this community.
Yeah. And look, the Dignity Act, it sounds great. She's certainly trying to tout this as a comprehensive solution to our immigration problems, but it's not. Yeah. It doesn't offer a path towards residency or citizenship. It essentially keeps people who've been here in our community that, she says she wants to protect in a limbo type status, yeah, rather than a full ability to become residents, become citizens in a way that I think people don't understand they don't have right now under the current law. It doesn't change the 1996 law that was signed by President Bill Clinton that makes it impossible for so many families to be able to be together, yeah, legally, because of the bars, and I'm not going to get into the weeds about it, but the Dignity Act
is your area.
Well, I mean, I am an immigration attorney, but I see the Dignity Act as an empty solution that she can tout, but that will never go anywhere, yeah, and that it offers nothing real.
That's why I call it political theater. It's just like the concentration camp in the Everglades. It's all political theater. That could have gone anywhere. They went in the middle of the Everglades, mere yards from sacred ground for the Miccosukee. And so I totally agree with you. And I think the one thing we can all agree on is that the immigration system is broken. I think you know it better than most, being an immigration attorney. What I am dismayed at is the lack of practical solutions. It's all about the theater and the numbers. And by the way, we were promised criminals,
Right.
that the criminals would be deported. And yet, what are you seeing? You are seeing families and people who have not committed crimes ripped apart. You are seeing a 15-year-old over there. And you are seeing the fact that right now that is affecting the economy of Miami.
Right.
Restaurants are having one of their worst years, partially because people are afraid to go out and eat. You're seeing tourism down for a wide variety of reasons. I saw in the first half of this year, MIA has had 450,000 fewer passengers. That's a deeper issue that goes into tariffs and how we're treating our friends and allies, and the fact that people are concerned that because they have one stupid meme on their phone, they're going to get turned around and sent back to their country when they're here to spend money and hours. And so,
they're concerned that with a tourist visa, they could be detained.
Exactly. And now they're talking about bonds, like you have to pay thousands of dollars just to put a bond. I mean, the thing is, we're a tourism economy in Miami. To think that we are somehow supportive of an administration that is saying that America is closed for business and is turning people away is economic insanity for this community.
Yeah.
And so I think that is something that we need to continue to point out, because if I run a business, and right now we held a roundtable on businesses not long ago out in Westchester, and one of the things that was pretty universal is the damage that these tariffs are doing.
Yeah.
In my company, we are losing contracts because our materials are costing up to 40% more. And so a lot of companies are like, we'll just wait it out. We'll just not do any economic activity. But what does that mean? That means I can't hire.
Mm-hmm.
That means that luckily we don't have to do anything but institute a hiring freeze, but a lot of companies have to downsize. The job market is in very rough shape. I just saw that in the most recent jobs report that youth unemployment is over 10%. And so I came out of college in the Great Recession. I remember what it was like to not find a job. It has long-lasting effects on a generation when you cannot get your life started. They're saying, I forget the exact numbers, but it used to be you can buy your first home in your 20s, and now it's in your mid-30s.
Yeah, I just saw that it was 38 average.
38.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's my age, and so as of today.
Mm-hmm.
But
happy birthday, by the way.
Yes, I couldn't spend it with anybody better, you know. But these are the types of things that I think are really important to continue to hammer at, because again, this seat is one that Maria Vieira has won 3 times. Mm-hmm. It is a seat by registration that leans Republican. And to win this seat, why I think I'm a different kind of candidate is that I believe I can put together the kind of coalition that can win. And I think it starts with the fact that everyone, no matter what their beliefs are, has the dollars and cents, the clear numbers of what's happening to their bank account.
Absolutely. And I think it's important for us to highlight that, you know, the old way of thinking of what a Republican is or what a Democrat is has just completely been obliterated by the Trump Republicans. This starting with the Tea Party and the Trump movement is that, you know, they used to say that the Republicans were the party of the fiscal conservatism and the Democrats were the ones spending money. I mean, but you mentioned this $3 trillion deficit that has been added to our already enormous deficit. Yeah. I mean, it's outrageous. That's not fiscal conservatism. That's not what we want. I mean, of course, we want to support, you know, programs like that help, like you said, Section 8 housing, like affordability, subsidies that allow people to start businesses, subsidies that allow people to buy their first homes, allow people to have health care, something that we have taken for granted in the last several years that, you know, has been, you know, expanded in some regard, but prevented from expansion here in the state of Florida. But nevertheless, like this big bad bill, this travesty is the, you know, I think quintessential moment where we see this is not fiscal conservatism. And it's almost like the parties have switched where we're talking about affordability. We're talking about fiscal conservatism in a real way. Like, what does it mean to actually conserve our monetary financial resources for the greater good? And also just the intrusion of the government into our private lives in a way that we haven't seen in decades.
You're absolutely right, and I think it's important to look at it, I think, in 3 different ways. One is I think we all believe in a meritocracy, where this is a country with the American dream, where if you have talent and you have drive, you should be able to rise and do better than your parents. That's why I think the stat of what's happened to people doing better than their parents stood out to me, is because that's an inherent promise we are given. But in order to truly be a meritocracy, we have to make sure everyone gets a fair chance. And I think the programs that we're talking about, the social programs, but also making sure we have a strong public school system, no matter where you live, no matter what your zip code, that we have after school programs, which by the way are also cut so that children have a safe place to go after school, so that we also focus on opportunity because it reduces crime. Right. You talk about right now they're sending the National Guard into streets in different cities. And I think it's important to acknowledge the fact that many people in lower income communities do experience crime in a way that those in higher income communities do not, despite the fact that stats say they're going lower. However, you do not reduce that unless you give people a different way to earn. And so this focus on making sure people can make it in this country has immense benefits across our society. The second piece of that is the types of jobs that we create. We have an AI revolution coming that is going to continue to disrupt our society. And if we don't have legislators in Congress that are savvy enough to regulate it, we're going to end up like what happened with social media, where it basically was left alone. And now children are experiencing mental health crises via social media. The third major piece is, I think, a return to practical solutions, right? There are so many challenges that we are facing that have fixes if we just let the politics get out of the way. I'm talking about public education. I'm talking about making sure that we have strong trade schools in addition to colleges that can show people a different pathway to the middle class and beyond. Right now, with Project Transforming Hope, the nonprofit I work with, we have young men that are on track to work retail jobs, making $15, $17 an hour, to making over 6 figures as aircraft mechanics at the airport. These are jobs available right now that will not be taken away by AI, but they require focus. And they require a leader that actually listens to the community and goes beyond the headlines. And so that's kind of the energy that I'm bringing to this race. That's why we're actually hosting a town hall tomorrow.
Perfect segue. Thank you. Yes. Tell me about the town hall tomorrow.
Yeah. So Congresswoman Salazar has never in her 5 years in office hosted a public town hall.
That's incredible.
It is.
Never.
She spends all her time speaking to us through a camera. One thing that is universal in the conversations I've been having at doors, because we're already knocking on doors this early, is the fact that they don't see her. They might have seen her when she first asked for their vote. They might see her maybe on election time a little bit, but she is not in this community. She is viewed as elitist because she is. She is viewed as out of touch because she is. And she is also viewed as afraid because she is. She's afraid of listening to her voters. She's afraid of facing the consequences of her actions and her votes on this bill. She's afraid of looking people in the eye who are losing these benefits that are lifelines for them. And so because she is failing to do her job, I plan on doing it for her. So we're hosting a town hall tomorrow, Tuesday, at 7 p.m. at the St. James Baptist Church in the West Coconut Grove. And we plan on having a lot of folks coming out from a lot of different backgrounds. And the purpose of this is to listen. So what we're going to do is obviously introduce myself, but also let people speak their concerns. And we are going to have papers and postcards available where since Congresswoman Salazar is not going to be there to answer their questions, we're going to let them write them down, and then we're going to deliver them to her office for them. So that because one of the other things that is very clear is that she is very poor at constituent services and solving the problems of the community. And so this town hall is an opportunity for this community to be heard. It's an opportunity for this community to also express their feelings on a leader that is absent. And that's why we're doing it.
That's awesome. And of course, everybody is invited to this.
Everybody.
But, and I would encourage, people who are non-party affiliated, perhaps Republican affiliated, that they come out too and have their voices heard. This isn't, I think that it's really important when you do these town halls, and I know you do this, is and encouraging everybody to come, is because it's not about preaching to the choir. It's about actually listening. The one thing that she will not do, which is listen to her constituents, hear this feedback, because like you said, when she's just presenting something on camera, a video, I think one of the things she was at a program with Univision many months ago. She came out and said the I-220A was created by the Biden administration, and this whole issue with immigration was created by the Biden administration. And it's just when she doesn't have the opportunity for you to actually say, hey, what you're saying is not true. It's like, it's actually in black and white, not true. I can show you that this was created back in, doesn't matter, 2017, that this is not a creation of the Biden administration. This is actually a creation of the Trump administration. But it seems like she's, in my opinion, and I wonder if you agree, is that she just deflects completely and really has no real solutions.
Yeah, well, the best way to, I think, understand what happens to her under pressure is to look at an older Jim DeFede interview with her, in which, so what she did is when the infrastructure bill that Biden passed, she would go around town cutting ribbons for projects that she voted against.
Right.
And I mean, maybe that's classic politician behavior. I don't know. It's my first time running, but that was something where he pushed on her. And in the interview, you'll see that she completely melted. She defers, like, I'll have to ask my staff. It's like, well, you don't know what you vote for? She would stutter. And so I think that she knows that she can't take the heat.
Right.
And so, but these are elected representatives to our community. If you can't take the heat, well, that's the saying goes, get out of the kitchen, like take someone who could. When I'm elected, I expect that there are going to be people who disagree with me on things that I do. I think it's natural. I also think that if you agree with me on 6, 7, 8 out of 10 of the things that I do, you should probably be someone who votes for me. Right. And if you don't agree with me on the 2 out of 10, let's have a discussion about it, right? Let's have a respectful discussion. That's not the way things are right now, but that's the way that I really want to return these to. But I think we have a real opportunity to highlight the fact that she's been very hypocritical and she is not serving her community whatsoever.
Yeah, no, and I think I completely agree with you. And it's very frustrating, I think, to see how little our elected representatives, especially in Congress and Senate, have just completely turned their backs on the people who voted for them and have absolutely no ability to take any feedback or criticism. We've seen some Republican Congress people who've done town halls and they've gotten, enormous, very animated feedback from their constituents, and with good reason. But that's their job.
It is their job.
That is their job. And if they're not listening to us, then it's time for them to leave that job and go on to something else.
You represent not just the people who vote for you, you represent the people of your district, period. Whatever that is, whether it's your state, whether it's your congressional district, whether it's your city commission district. And so I think that's something that we need to bring back and center, is the concept of representation as well as leadership. What that means to actually be a conduit for your community. Not tell your community what they need, but listen to your community and then deliver that message to Washington. That's what representation means. So I think that's something that we need to get back to basics on. And I think that's something that people, when I represent them, will experience.
And that's, and I think it behooves us to hammer home the points of which she has not acted. And in particular, we talked about immigration earlier, but I mean, this is still very relevant in that we had a court case last week about TPS for Haitians and Venezuelans. We had the administration come out again and say they're ending TPS for Venezuelans that set to expire on September 10th. And now, there's another court case. I have clients asking me constantly, well, what does this mean? What does this mean? I'm like, it's in litigation. But again, where are our local electeds where we have the vast majority of Venezuelan TPS recipients right here in our communities? Yeah. They're not people who are alone islands to themselves.
Yeah.
These are people who have family members who are lawful permanent residents and U.S. citizens. They are members of our community that have legal status. I think it's so important to point out that this administration has not just deported people who have no criminal history, but they're actually taking people who have legal status and ripping away their legal status in order to deport them, and sometimes to very third countries like El Salvador. There are threats for South Sudan, and and people like Maria Elvira Salazar, who has so many people who are affected by this in her district, be silent or trying to thank the Trump administration for what he's doing in immigration, or again, put out that Dignity Act like it has a chance in where to pass.
Well, there's two things I think it's important, again, to when I speak to people, just so everyone understands. So my parents are Republicans, and so I grew up in a Republican household, and I've had plenty of debates over the years. And the thing that I think is most important to understand and to test also yourself, right, is if the other side was doing the same thing, would I react the same? Right? And so that's kind of the mirror I think we should hold up to ourselves, but also to everyone else. And so in a world where President, let's say Obama or Biden, was out there and revoking temporary protected status from Venezuelans, how do you think not just Congresswoman Salazar, but Jimenez and Diaz-Balart would be acting?
Right.
They would be acting the same way we are. The difference is we react that way even if a Democratic president was doing the same thing.
Absolutely.
And so I think that it's important in all issues for us to make sure that we check our own biases in that regard. That goes with civil liberties too. If a Democratic president was putting troops on the streets of American cities, there would be a lot of conversation about the Second Amendment and bringing out your firearms. But there is a level of silence that is baffling to me in those areas. The second piece around Venezuela is you talk about, on one hand, the administration calls them a narco state, a failed state, a dictatorship, a brutal dictatorship, which they are.
Yes.
Which we then sent the U.S. Navy over there to try to collect on the $50 million bounty. Good. However, then you want to send people back to that same narco state, dictatorship, incredibly dangerous place, because this is, I think, the great hypocrisy that continues to rear its head over and over. And it's one that they know is hypocritical, or at least either they know it's hypocritical or they are truly just not good people.
I mean, listen,
either way, I think,
either way, it's hypocritical, it's incongruent. But they sent an envoy to shake President Maduro's hand.
Yeah, while we're pumping oil, while we're buying their oil too. Yes, I forgot to mention that.
Exactly. So the hypocrisy is clear, and I think you're absolutely right. Our moral compass has to guide our decisions, not whether who's in power and maintaining our own political power. It's what is right. Yeah. What is going to benefit our community? What's going to benefit our constituents? And so with that, I want to ask you, what would be your top priority to accomplish should you be elected to Congress?
So I think there's a lot of legislation I'd want to pass, but one thing that I think gets overlooked about the role of a member of Congress is the power of constituent services. I think it's something that this community has not faced since Ileana Ros-Lehtinen held the seat, and Donna Shalala as well. But it is something where my first focus would be on making sure that the team here in Miami that's helping solve people's issues would be world class. I want to bring in customer service experts from the private sector to actually come in and train folks. But I think that my first priority is making sure that the folks here on the ground are able to deliver to me the needs of this community so that I can go to DC and pass legislation. So that would be my first priority. Before anything else going on there, that would be my first priority. In DC, it would be immediately eliminating the tariffs that are causing people's costs to rise. I think that is a role, that is a job of Congress in the Constitution. The tariffs were mostly called inconstitutional because they are a tax. People forget that. That is just a different word for a tax. Yep. And we pay the bills. And so internally, I would focus on constituent services, and in Congress, the quickest fix I can make to drop people's bills, are eliminating tariffs and reasserting congressional authority over that.
And when we have such a close Congress, you would have the ability to do that when we know the margins that we have. So it's very realistic.
And I would say quickly that this is a seat that, even though we have lost for a few cycles now, is a target seat for the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, is a seat where there is polling showing her vulnerable. This is likely the most flippable seat in Florida. Some may argue a few other seats, but regardless, the fact of the matter is this is an opportunity to make real change. And that's part of what excites me about this opportunity, is being able to go to DC, as you say, and actually wield power.
Yep.
Because that's what it's all about, to advance our interests of District 27 and of Miami. So
thank you. And how can people who are listening find more out about you and your campaign, and of course the town hall tomorrow?
So as a reminder, Town Hall, St. James Baptist Church, 7 p.m. Tomorrow. That's Tuesday, September 9th. You can look us up. Please follow us on social media. That is the most up-to-date look at our campaign. One thing I will note is that we are running a pretty robust digital operation, and so you'll get to see me try all kinds of new things. Some of them might be a little cringe, some of them might be a little informative. I mean, I like laughing at myself, if you haven't noticed. But the other thing is www.richard.vote. That's where folks go. That's where you can see my policy platform. That's also where you can donate if you are so inclined. And so I think that this is, again, a real opportunity to cause a political earthquake, and it starts here in Miami-Dade County, and that's why I'm also excited to have you lead us in that battle too.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you for being here. Everyone have a wonderful rest of your day and week. And of course, happy birthday, Richard.
Thank you. Thank you very much.